we broke yesterday, the independent party of three decided that, the Dubbo Regional Council can go 2.3%. But Mayor Matthew Dickinson, we weren't the only council given the tick of approval to rise to 2.3, were we? I think about 60 or something councils knew that they couldn't afford to go on a 0.7. What happens now, Matthew Dickinson?
There's an interesting process. Go back one step there, sorry, Richard. So you're right. Every council that made an application, I think it ended up being 86 in total.
86 councils said, stuff this 0.7, we can't do anything with it.
That's right. And that probably gives you a pretty clear indication that the majority of councils, there's only about 128 councils across the state, the vast majority of councils said this isn't enough and made application. And it looks like all of those applications, I don't know exactly how many applications were put into IPART, but I would suggest that was pretty much all of them, 86 councils. So that...
But doesn't that also, if I can jump in there too, doesn't that also mean, Matthew Dickinson, that the IPART were out of touch with what councils are needed? Surely that shows that up.
You could draw that conclusion. That would be an obvious conclusion to draw, given the fact that 0.7%, any man on the street would say that inflation is running at a much higher rate than 0.7%. And you would also say that some of the things that council is involved in may well be even higher than average in terms of the inflationary pressures. So it was pretty much obvious across the board that the local government community said 0.7 is going to make the councils across the state have to cut back services, cut back expenditure in some way, shape or form. So
let's if we can just break it down then, Matthew Dickinson, if we can just break it down, what will that mean to me as a homeowner? What does that 2.3% mean?
So essentially it means that you will have an increase in rates. If the 0.7% went through, then you would have had a approximately 0.7% increase in your rates. If it's at 2.3%, then obviously it will mean a slightly higher increase in rates from 0.7 up to 2.3. So you will notice a very minor difference in your rates, obviously, not a huge amount. But from a council perspective, the good part is that what we will notice is an extra $642,000 on our bottom line. So that's obviously a good thing, and we've allocated that money to basically go towards roads. And that's the one thing that everyone tells me, tells councillors, tells council in general, that they want to see improve at the moment. The roads are in a bad state and some places in a terrible state. So that at least gives us $642,000 extra. That doesn't give you a lot in terms of roads, but at least it's a start.
Yeah, that's a couple of potholes. How are you going to prioritise?
There's a process that we go through to prioritise roads, the condition of the roads. There are various tests we do, and it comes down to a combination of the condition of a road and the amount of traffic that's on that road. So you might live on a dirt road that's got 2 cars a week going on, and it might be a terrible road. Well, that will be a lower priority than somewhere like Wheelers Lane, which has got a lot of traffic on it, and it may not be as bad on Wheelers Lane as a dirt road that you drive on, but obviously higher traffic numbers. So it's a combination of traffic and the condition.
Now, when will it hit the rate notice?
You will see these go through. So officially, this hasn't actually gone through yet. So what's happened is IPART has given us permission to go to 2.3. Next Monday, we will hold an extraordinary meeting specifically to deal with the budget. Because we knew it was going to be very late when this was going to come in, the Thursday council meeting this week won't give us enough time to actually put this information into our council meeting. So we're holding an extraordinary meeting on Monday just to deal with this. Let's assume that councillors vote in favour of the 2.3%. They don't have to. They could say, no, let's make it 0.7. They could say, no, let's make it 0%. But I'm assuming for the moment, I don't want to put words into the mouths of councillors, but let's assume that rate rise did go through. Then you won't see that increase until your first rates notice next financial year. And you might expect over the year, it might be, say, an extra $30 that you might pay in your rates on average over that.
Okay. Now, of course, if you're a renter, you'll be hit with that, won't you?
Well, the landlord will be hit with that rates notice. You may not see any change in your rent because rents at the moment, a landlord is only allowed to put your rents up once per year. So if you just, for example, had your rent go up last week, last month, 3 months ago, it will be 12 months from the last rent increase before the landlord could put your rent up. And then it's up to the landlord in terms of how they deal with that. It's probably more to do with market pressures in terms of how much rent is being charged to you as a renter more so than this. I don't think an average landlord will see an extra $30 or thereabouts make a huge difference to the amount of rent that they're charging to a tenant.
Yeah, but then as you say, market pressures, the landlord can do what they want, really, can't they?
Well, within reason, it just comes down to supply and demand, and rents do seem to have been going up higher than CPI lately because of that supply and demand.
Oh, well, let's just wrap it up then. 2.3 is on the unimproved value of your block of land. It's got nothing to do with water or other services or fees and charges from council, has it?
That's exactly right. And the really important part you said there, Richard, was the unimproved land value. So the Valuer General makes an estimation of what your parcel of land is worth without a house on it. So if you build a little shack or you build a Taj Mahal, that doesn't change your rates. There might be an argument to say that that would be a fairer way to charge rates, but at the moment the process is that rates are charged on the unimproved land value. The Valuer General decides what your unimproved land value is, and the reason that sometimes people's rates may not change by exactly 2.3% is because sometimes the Valuer General does revaluations. So some parcels of land might go up a little bit more than CPI and might go up a little bit less than CPI. The total rate pool, and it gets very confusing, the total rate pool that council is allowed to generate from rates cannot go up by more than 2.3% if it goes through at 2.3. But individuals might have their rates changed by ever so slightly different amounts over that 2.3. So when you look at your rates notice and it goes up by 2.37% or 2.24%, that's the reason why, because the Valuer General might have changed the land values around you and other properties.
All right, Google search, that's what it feels like, isn't it? The VG's looking at you over your shoulder. All right, when did you say the extraordinary meeting to decide on whether council will adopt this 2.3 recommendation?
So we'll call an extraordinary meeting for lunchtime on Monday. We'll have an extraordinary meeting, which will be a normal council meeting, but it will just have one topic on the agenda, and that will be the adoption of our budget.
Okay. There's more to do on it too about other fees and charges, and we'll get around that issue as the next couple of days unfolds after today's budget as well. Matthew Dickinson, appreciate your time and clarity on that 2.3, deciding next Monday at lunchtime whether you will adopt that, and I can't see why you wouldn't. Thank you, Matthew.
Thanks, Richard.